Ancient stones stand silent guard across the world, holding a secret written in the language of the stars. We are on the verge of mapping a lost global network of stone alignments and celestial corridors, a hidden geography that could rewrite human history. By the end of this journey, you will see the ancient world in a completely new light, connecting the dots between continents and the cosmos. How did cultures separated by oceans build with the same celestial blueprint? And what forgotten connection did they share with the sky above? What does it feel like to consider that our deepest history might be far more connected than we ever knew? A single line, drawn across a continent, connects a stone circle in the Scottish Highlands to a sun temple in the Egyptian desert. This is the essence of a celestial corridor, a theoretical pathway etched into the earth itself by the deliberate placement of ancient stones. These stone alignments are not haphazard collections of rock. They are meticulously arranged rows, circles, and avenues of megaliths, positioned to frame the movement of the heavens. Each standing stone acts as a permanent marker, creating a sightline that targets a specific celestial event. On the morning of the winter solstice, the sun would rise precisely between two distant pillars. On a certain night, the full moon would appear to roll along the top of a long stone row. These structures served as both calendar and cathedral, allowing ancient cultures to predict the turning of the seasons and to conduct ceremonies in harmony with the cosmos. The very precision of these alignments reveals a deep and sophisticated understanding of astronomy. It challenges the old idea of scattered, isolated societies, suggesting instead a shared, perhaps even global, fascination with the sky. Why would cultures with no apparent contact invest such immense effort in the same fundamental practice of locking stone to star? This is the foundational mystery, the first thread we must grasp to begin pulling on the vast, hidden web. Oceans and mountain ranges created a world of separation, yet the stones tell a different story. The same sophisticated astronomical alignments appear in the temples of Malta, the stone rows of Carnac in France, and the great circles of Britain. How is this possible? Two compelling and deeply controversial theories attempt to solve this puzzle. The first proposes a lost global civilization, a sophisticated seafaring culture that traversed the world in the distant past. This advanced society, according to the idea, imparted its knowledge of stone and star to indigenous peoples, leaving behind a common architectural language before vanishing from history. The second theory argues for a shared human inheritance, a fundamental cognitive blueprint hardwired into our species. This view suggests that when humans transitioned to settled agricultural life, a universal understanding of geometry and celestial cycles emerged independently, a natural product of the human mind observing the same sky. This is not merely an academic debate. It challenges the very foundations of our history books, questioning whether humanity's story is one of isolated development or of deep, forgotten connections. The evidence we are about to explore does not offer easy answers, but it forces us to look at these ancient stones with a new and profound sense of wonder. Stonehenge stands as the ultimate symbol of this ancient mystery. While its solstice alignment is world-famous, the true scope of its design extends far beyond that single sunrise. This great circle of sarsen stones acts as a central hub in a sprawling network of straight tracks known as ley lines. Picture the line of the summer solstice sunrise, the sun cresting the heel stone. Now follow that line in your mind as it continues across the Salisbury Plain. It does not simply end. This invisible corridor passes directly through ancient burial mounds, over hills where old churches now stand on much older sacred ground, and through the centers of other, smaller stone circles. This is not a coincidence, it is a pattern. Stonehenge sits at the heart of a spiderweb of these alignments, each one a deliberate thread in a grand tapestry. The sophistication of this network is staggering. It suggests that Stonehenge was never meant to be an isolated monument. It was a primary node, a central point of reference in a vast, organized system that charted the entire landscape. This was not just a calendar or a temple, it was part of a geographical blueprint whose full purpose we are still struggling to comprehend. What knowledge was so important that it required carving these lines of sight directly into the earth itself? The silent army of Karnak stands in stark contrast to the circular hub of Stonehenge. 3,000 individual megaliths stretch across the French landscape in vast, unwavering rows. Walking among them feels like navigating the columns of a celestial spreadsheet, a grid of stone built with a purpose we can only partially decode. While Stonehenge tracks the sun, the genius of Karnak is fundamentally lunar. These parallel rows are not aimed at the sunrise. They are precisely aligned to capture the moon at the most extreme points in its long, slow dance across the sky. The moon does not simply rise and set in the same place each night. Over a cycle of 18.6 years, its rising point migrates slowly between a northern and a southern limit. The builders of Karnak did not just note this cycle, they built a permanent, monumental record of it in granite. This was a complex lunar observatory, a machine of stone and shadow capable of predicting the moon's most dramatic swings over generations. The investment of labor here is almost unimaginable. Quarrying, transporting, and erecting this many stones required a society with immense organizational power and a singular, unwavering vision spanning centuries. What could possibly justify such a sustained, monumental effort? The answer must lie in the moon's profound influence, from its control over tides to its illumination of the night, that it warranted building a permanent calculator into the very earth. This level of precise, long-term astronomy emerging independently in both Britain and France forces a difficult question. Was this a shared idea carried along forgotten trade routes, or does it point to something even more profound, a universal human impulse to map the heavens, no matter the cost? Far from the grey skies of Europe, the sun beats down on a Peruvian desert, baking the soil into a vast, unbroken canvas. On the ground, you see only a confusing network of shallow pathways etched into the earth. But from the air, the truth reveals itself. The Nazca Plain explodes into a gallery of giants, a breathtaking collection of geometric shapes, sprawling animals, and impossibly long, straight lines that march toward the horizon. These are the Nazca lines, and they represent a form of sacred geography so immense it can only be fully comprehended from the heavens. Many of these lines are not random. They function as celestial corridors, precisely aligned to frame the rising and setting points of the sun, moon, and bright stars during significant annual events. They transformed the entire desert into a colossal astronomical instrument, a calendar written on the land itself. The purpose of these pathways remains one of archaeology's great puzzles. Were they ritual processional routes where communities walked in ceremony to connect with the cosmos? Could they have been a sophisticated agricultural calendar, marking the arrival of seasonal rains vital for survival? Or were they, as some more speculative theories suggest, meant as signals for celestial beings, markers visible only from a vantage point high above? Their existence in South America, so distant from the stone rows of Karnak or the circles of Britain, yet sharing this core principle of locking terrestrial lines to celestial movements, forces a profound reconsideration of our past. Is this evidence of a shared idea that somehow crossed the oceans in the deep past, carried by forgotten explorers? Or does it point to something even more fundamental, a universal human instinct to map our place in the universe by drawing the sky down onto the Earth, no matter where we are or when we live? The sheer scale of the Nazca lines, a project that would have required generations of coordinated effort, speaks to a drive that transcends culture and continent, a drive to inscribe our understanding of the cosmos directly into the skin of the planet. The precision of these ancient sites demands a new kind of detective, one who reads the landscape with the eyes of both an archaeologist and an astronomer. This is the field of archaeoastronomy, a discipline that deciphers the celestial language written in stone. It asks fundamental questions about our ancestors. How did they perceive the sun, the moon, and the wandering stars? How did they weave that knowledge into their monuments and their very way of life? The investigation is deeply technical, relying on precise measurements of stone alignments and complex computer software that can recreate the night sky as it appeared thousands of years ago. One of the most critical factors in this work is a phenomenon known as precession, the slow, grand wobble of the Earth's axis over a cycle of 26,000 years. Because of this wobble, the North Star was not always Polaris. The entire celestial dome has slowly shifted over the centuries, meaning the stars that rose over a temple doorway in 3000 BCE are not the same stars we see today. By calculating this slow dance of the heavens, archaeoastronomers can rewind the sky. They can stand at a monument and determine that on a specific, significant day 4 millennia ago, the bright star Sirius would have been framed perfectly by a narrow passage, or that the midwinter sun would have set in a direct line with a long stone avenue. This scientific rigor is what transforms speculation into credible evidence. It provides the solid, verifiable data points needed to connect one aligned site to another, building a reliable map of this ancient network. Without this foundation, the grand theory of a global connection would remain just a story. With it, we begin to see the outlines of a lost science, a shared understanding of the cosmos so profound it shaped the very world beneath our feet. This idea of a living, breathing Earth takes us beyond the stars and into the ground beneath our feet. Some researchers propose that these ancient alignments do more than track celestial bodies. They also chart invisible rivers of energy flowing through the planet itself. This concept is known as geomancy, the art of reading the landscape to identify powerful places. According to this view, the builders of these monuments were not just astronomers but energy cartographers. They possessed a sensitivity to subtle telluric currents, the faint energetic pulse of the Earth, and they placed their stones with deliberate precision. A stone circle might mark a powerful node where multiple energy lines crossed, a place of heightened spiritual significance. A long stone row could run directly along one of these energetic pathways, channeling or amplifying the flow. Those who practice dowsing, the traditional method of finding water with rods or pendulums, often report intense sensations at these very sites, frequently correlating with the presence of underground water sources or major geological fault lines. To the scientific mainstream, this remains a deeply controversial idea, as no instrument has yet provided reproducible proof of such Earth energies. Yet the hypothesis is profoundly compelling. It suggests our ancestors perceived the world in a way we have largely forgotten. They may have experienced the planet not as an inanimate rock, but as a living system, and they constructed their sacred geometry in direct harmony with its invisible, energetic tides. This raises a critical question, one that brings our investigation back to the practical. If these lines and nodes were real to them, what tools did they use to perceive and map this hidden geography? The geometric perfection of the Great Pyramid of Giza stands as a silent challenge to our understanding of the ancient world. Its base is a near-perfect square, with its four sides aligned to the four cardinal directions with an accuracy that seems almost impossible for its time. This was far more than symbolic. Internal shafts within the pyramid were precisely angled, once pointing like laser sights directly at the stars of Orion's belt and at Theban, which served as the North Star when the pyramids were built. This structure was a monumental machine of stone and sky, a three-dimensional map of the cosmos frozen in limestone, yet its true role in a global network is even more staggering. The Great Pyramid sits at a location that defies coincidence. It is positioned at the intersection of the longest line of land running north to south and the longest line of land running east to west. In essence, it sits at the center of the Earth's inhabited landmasses. Think about the implication of that. How could its builders have possibly known this? This placement suggests a level of global geographical knowledge that rewrites the entire narrative of ancient exploration. The connections grow even more specific. The precise geometric relationship between the location of the Great Pyramid and the location of Stonehenge reveals a direct and measurable geodetic link. The distance and angle between them appear to be part of a grand design. This positions Giza not merely as a tomb for a king, but as a foundational benchmark, a primary anchor point in a planet-wide system of surveying. The idea that these separate cultures, seemingly isolated by vast distances, could have been participants in a coordinated project to map the entire Earth is a concept that shatters our conventional timeline. It forces us to see these monuments not as isolated wonders, but as interconnected nodes in a lost global network, a system of astonishing scale and sophistication whose original architects remain a mystery. The silent moai of Easter Island stand guard on the most isolated inhabited landmass on Earth, a testament to human ingenuity in profound solitude. While their colossal, enigmatic faces capture the world's imagination, it is the stone platforms upon which they stand, the ahu, that hold a deeper secret. These long, ceremonial platforms are not randomly placed. Many are oriented with astonishing precision, acting as giant stone sighting devices. During the solstices and equinoxes, the sun would rise or set at a very specific point on the horizon, perfectly framed by the length of the ahu or the statues upon it. For a society that depended entirely on the rhythms of the sea and the growth of crops, this was more than ceremony. It was a sophisticated solar calendar carved directly into the landscape, a lifeline to predictability in a vast and unpredictable ocean. This practice presents a profound puzzle. Here, on an island thousands of miles from any other shore, a culture developed in complete isolation, yet felt the same fundamental need to anchor its world to the motions of the sun. The creation of the moai themselves was an act of staggering communal effort, requiring the quarrying, transport, and erection of multi-ton statues across miles of rugged terrain. This was a society capable of immense focus and long-term vision, channeling those resources not just into monumental art, but into precise celestial observation. Does their independent development of solar alignments prove that this is a universal human impulse, a cognitive blueprint that emerges whenever a culture reaches a certain point of complexity? Or does the specificity of their astronomical knowledge, so resonant with practices on other continents, whisper of a shared ancestral memory carried across the Pacific by intrepid voyagers in the deep past? The moai do not answer, but their silent gaze toward the horizon challenges our simplest stories of human history, suggesting that the drive to map the heavens is as fundamental to who we are as the stones we raise to mark our place beneath them. Mapping this hidden geography requires a 21st century toolkit, a fusion of technologies that let us see the ancient world with new eyes. We have moved far beyond compasses and paper maps into the realm of Geographic Information Systems, or GIS. Think of GIS as a digital detective's canvas. It allows researchers to layer satellite photographs over detailed topographic maps, then overlay those with centuries of archaeological data and precise astronomical calculations. With a few clicks, a line drawn from a stone circle in Scotland can be extended across Europe, testing if it truly intersects with a temple in Greece. This is how hypothetical alignments are tested on a continental scale. The view from space is equally transformative. Satellite imagery, accessible to anyone with an internet connection, provides a God's-eye view of the planet. From this vantage point, researchers can spot subtle patterns in the landscape, straight tracks across deserts, or circular earthworks hidden beneath farmland, revealing potential sites that have been lost for millennia. But what about features buried deep beneath the soil or concealed by dense forest? This is where ground-penetrating radar and LIDAR come in. LIDAR works by firing millions of laser pulses from an aircraft towards the ground. By measuring how long they take to return, it creates an incredibly detailed three-dimensional model of the surface, digitally stripping away trees and vegetation to reveal the bare earth below. It has exposed entire cities in the jungle, completely invisible to the naked eye. Once a site is identified, three-dimensional modeling software brings it back to life. These programs can reconstruct the original landscape, accounting for thousands of years of erosion, and then simulate the exact position of the sun, moon, and stars on any given date in the deep past. We can now stand digitally at a newly discovered stone and watch the winter solstice sun rise in perfect alignment, just as the builders intended. This technological convergence is what transforms speculative ideas into testable, verifiable evidence. It provides the rigorous data needed to connect one sacred site to another, slowly and methodically piecing together the fragments of a lost global map. One of the most compelling threads in this hidden web is a straight line across southern England, known as the St. Michael Ley Line. This is not a vague alignment but a precise geographical axis, running for hundreds of miles from the tidal island of St. Michael's Mount in Cornwall. It crosses the landscape with astonishing purpose, passing directly through Glastonbury Tor, that myth-shrouded hill linked to the legends of King Arthur. The line continues unswerving through the heart of the Avebury Stone Circle, a monument even larger than Stonehenge, and onward to other ancient sites, many capped by churches dedicated to the Archangel Michael. The geographical precision is undeniable, but the true story is told in the layers of history along its path. Pre-Christian earthworks and stone circles, places of ancient pagan reverence, are frequently found at the exact points where later medieval builders chose to erect their Christian chapels. This was not a random act of construction. It suggests a deliberate continuity of sacred geography, a recognition that these specific locations held a power or significance so profound that a new faith felt compelled to build directly upon the old. The choice of St. Michael as the patron of these sites adds another layer of meaning. In iconography, he is the celestial warrior, the archangel who defeats the dragon. Some researchers interpret this as a symbolic narrative written across the landscape itself, representing the triumph of celestial order, of the sun and the stars, over the untamed, chaotic energies of the earth. This single line, the St. Michael Ley, is a perfect case study. It demonstrates how a celestial corridor can weave together geography, astronomy, and human belief into a single, unbroken strand of history, connecting the deepest past to the present day, all along a path of power we are only beginning to understand. While stone circles anchored cultures to the land, the Polynesian voyagers built their celestial corridors on the open ocean. Their world was not defined by static monuments, but by the fluid, star-lit pathways of the Pacific. They perfected a system of navigation so sophisticated it could guide a double-hulled canoe across thousands of miles of empty sea. This was the Polynesian star compass, a mental model of the cosmos that divided the entire horizon into 32 directional houses. Each house was a precise window defined by the exact spot where a specific bright star would rise or set. A navigator would memorize this living map, knowing that as one star set into its designated house, another would be rising from its opposite point, creating a stable, rotating grid across the heavens. They were not sailing by dead reckoning or guesswork. They were following fixed highways in the sky, celestial corridors as real and reliable as any stone row on land. This required a profound intimacy with the night, an ability to feel the swell of the ocean, to read the flight patterns of birds, and to track the subtle shifts of stars invisible to the untrained eye. The success of their voyages, populating islands scattered across an area larger than any continent, stands as a testament to the power of this knowledge. This reveals a crucial truth. The human drive to create and navigate by cosmic alignments was not confined to megalithic builders. It was a universal solution to the fundamental challenge of wayfinding. Whether you are raising a multi-ton stone to mark the solstice sunrise or steering a canoe toward the rising point of a specific star, you are engaging in the same profound act. You are using the eternal, predictable cycles of the cosmos to orient yourself in a vast and often unpredictable world. The Polynesians demonstrate that these corridors are not always etched in rock. Some of the most powerful are written in memory, passed down through generations of singers and storytellers, a living network connecting not just places, but people to the stars themselves. High on a sun-baked cliff in Choco Canyon, a spiral carved in stone waits for a single moment of the year. At noon on the summer solstice, a brilliant blade of light slices through the air, striking the very heart of the petroglyph. This is the Sun Dagger of Fajada Butt, a celestial clock built not from standing stones, but from the living rock of the canyon itself. The ancestral Puebloans who created this masterpiece positioned 3 massive stone slabs with incredible precision. These slabs act as a lens, focusing the sun's rays into sharp daggers of light that perform their annual dance across the spiral. The summer solstice brings a single beam to the center. At the winter solstice, 2 distinct daggers of light perfectly flank the spiral sides. This was not a rough alignment. It was a sophisticated, multi-part solar marker, a testament to generations of careful observation. The genius of the Sun Dagger lies in its elegant simplicity. It uses the natural environment as its primary component, transforming a cliff face into a monumental calendar. This reveals a profound, localized intimacy with the sun's journey, a deep understanding of how light and shadow could paint the passage of time onto a permanent canvas of stone. It represents a different kind of celestial corridor, one that is vertical and intimate, a private conversation between the sun and the canyon wall. How many years of patient watching did it take to find this exact spot, to understand the specific angle of the slabs needed to create such a perfect effect? The effort speaks to a cultural priority where tracking the cosmos was not just a practical need, but an act of artistic and spiritual expression. The Sun Dagger stands in stark contrast to the vast, horizontal lines of Nazca or the towering rows of Karnak, yet it serves the same fundamental purpose. It anchors a community to the cosmic order, proving that the drive to mark the heavens could be fulfilled with breathtaking creativity, no matter the scale or the materials at hand. Long before the first archaeologist arrived with a theodolite, the knowledge of these alignments was whispered in stories passed down through generations. Across the globe, cultures preserved the memory of these invisible lines not in academic texts, but in myth and folklore. In Ireland, people spoke of the ferry paths, straight tracks used by the Sidhe, the powerful ferry folk. To build a home or a barn across one of these paths was considered deeply unwise, an invitation for hardship. This was not simply a superstition. It was a practical, oral tradition that effectively zoned the landscape, protecting these ancient straight tracks from disturbance for centuries. On the other side of the world, the Chinese developed the sophisticated practice of feng shui. This entire system is based on understanding the flow of Qi, the vital life force, as it moves along dragon lines that crisscross the earth. The placement of homes, temples, and even entire cities was carefully calculated to harmonize with these energetic currents. What are we to make of these parallel traditions, separated by vast continents? They are far more than quaint stories. They represent a cultural memory, a persistent echo of a time when humanity perceived the world as a living, breathing entity crisscrossed with lines of power. The ferry paths of Ireland and the dragon lines of China are different names for the same perceived phenomenon. By listening to these old tales, we are given a guidebook. A story about a haunted hill or a blessed spring is often a direct clue, pointing toward a node in this ancient network. The folklore acts as a durable container for a profound geomantic understanding, preserving the map long after the original surveyors were gone. These narratives remind us that our ancestors did not see a barren landscape, but one alive with meaning, story, and connection. A world where every hill and stone was part of a greater, invisible design. The ancient Greeks believed the very center of the world was not a city or a palace, but a single stone at Delphi known as the Omphalos. This was more than myth, it was a statement of geography rooted in the land itself. The Temple of Apollo was constructed directly over a crack in the earth, a geological fault line. From this deep fissure, subtle vapors would rise from the bedrock. The priestess, the Pythia, would sit above this sacred opening, and these naturally occurring gases were believed to induce a trance-like state, allowing her to channel prophecies that shaped the fate of kings and nations. This was a place where the planet itself was thought to speak, but the connection did not end with the ground below. The temple's precise orientation reveals a second layer of intent. Its doorway was aligned to capture the rising of the constellation Delphinus, the dolphin, a creature sacred to Apollo. On key dates, the stars themselves would appear to ascend directly along the temple's axis, framing the celestial in the same sacred space as the terrestrial. Delphi represents a perfect fusion. Here, the power of the earth, the geometry of the stars, and the yearning of the human spirit converged into a single, powerful node. It was not built on a random scenic hill. It was deliberately placed at an intersection of visible and invisible forces. This site challenges our modern separation of science and spirituality, suggesting the ancients saw no such division. They sought out these powerful convergences, building their most sacred spaces where the lines of the earth met the pathways of the sky, creating a bridge between the world we walk and the cosmos we watch. Every grand theory must face the scrutiny of the skeptic's gaze, and the idea of a global network is no exception. Critics raise a vital and statistically grounded point. With countless thousands of ancient monuments dotting the continents, drawing straight lines between them is not necessarily proof of design, but a predictable outcome of chance. This human tendency to find meaningful patterns in random data is known as apophenia. If you have enough points on a map, some will inevitably connect in seemingly straight lines, creating the illusion of intent where none may exist. Skeptics argue that many proposed alignments lack the precision required to be convincing. A line that passes near a site, or one that is only a few degrees off, may not represent the deliberate work of master surveyors. Furthermore, the concept of Earth energies flowing along these lines remains firmly in the realm of the unproven, as no reproducible scientific measurement has ever confirmed their existence. The most sweeping version of the theory, which posits a single, globe-spanning civilization, faces perhaps the steepest challenge. It often depends on speculative interpretations of dating evidence and tends to gloss over the profound and beautiful diversity of these cultures, reducing their unique expressions to a single, homogeneous source. A truly rigorous investigation cannot ignore these criticisms. It must embrace them as a necessary filter. This means applying strict statistical analysis to proposed alignments, demanding a high degree of precision, and acknowledging the incredible innovative capacity of human societies to develop similar solutions independently. The goal is not to prove a preconceived idea, but to follow the evidence wherever it leads, separating the compelling connections from the seductive whispers of wishful thinking. The sprawling stone mandala of Angkor Wat rises from the Cambodian jungle as a city-sized map of the cosmos. This vast temple complex was designed as a physical representation of the Hindu universe, with its central towers symbolizing the sacred Mount Meru, the axis around which all creation revolves. Yet this was far more than symbolic architecture. It functioned as a colossal and precise astronomical instrument, engineered to capture specific moments in the celestial calendar with breathtaking accuracy. From the main western entrance on the morning of the spring equinox, witnesses are met with a stunning spectacle. The sun rises in perfect alignment directly over the apex of the central tower, a moment of profound harmony between the earthly and the divine that was clearly orchestrated by its brilliant architects. This single alignment is just the beginning. The entire complex is a labyrinth of celestial code. The intricate bas-reliefs adorning its walls are not merely mythological stories. They are embedded with sophisticated astronomical symbolism, their narratives and characters arranged to reflect the draconic cycle of the moon, a complex 18.6-year pattern of lunar orbits and eclipses. The solstices are similarly marked within the stonework, with shadows and light playing across specific carvings at the turning points of the year. The sheer scale and intricate detail of this celestial design is what truly staggers the mind. It suggests its builders were not just tracking annual cycles, but possessed a deep, generational understanding of much grander cosmic clocks, including the slow precession of the equinoxes. To encode such long-term knowledge into stone implies a civilization looking thousands of years into the future, building a temple that would remain a functional calendar for millennia. Angkor Wat's placement in Southeast Asia is a critical piece of evidence. It adds a major, sophisticated cultural center far removed from the European megaliths or the Middle Eastern pyramids to our growing global map. Here, developed entirely within its own cultural and religious context, we find the same universal principle at work: the undeniable human drive to encode cosmic order into the very foundation of our greatest structures. This independent emergence of such a complex idea asks a haunting question. Are we seeing the scattered remnants of a single, lost seed of knowledge, or does this point to a fundamental pattern in human consciousness, an innate need to build our heaven here on Earth? The silent stones speak a hidden language of number and form. Beyond the celestial alignments, a deeper layer of order emerges from their dimensions, a layer built not on stars but on mathematics. The architects of these monuments consistently employed sacred geometric ratios, universal constants that appear to govern patterns from the spiral of a galaxy to the curve of a seashell. The Great Pyramid of Giza is a perfect example. The ratio of its perimeter to its height is exactly 2 times pi, a mathematical constant relating a circle's circumference to its diameter. This was not a rough approximation. It was a precise, deliberate encoding of a fundamental truth of geometry into the very bones of the structure. Similarly, the golden ratio, known as phi, appears in the proportions of everything from the Parthenon in Greece to the layout of ancient temples. This ratio, approximately 1.618 to 1, is found throughout nature in the arrangement of leaves, the spiral of a nautilus shell, and the proportions of the human body. Its recurrent use suggests the builders saw it as a divine proportion, a key to harmonious and sacred design. They were not merely stacking rocks, they were translating the underlying code of the universe into stone. This mathematical genius extended to practical surveying. Long before the Greek philosopher Pythagoras formalized his theorem, these ancient engineers were using Pythagorean triangles, sets of 3 whole numbers that form a perfect right angle, to lay out their sites with astonishing accuracy over vast distances. A triangle with sides measuring 3, 4, and 5 units creates a perfect right angle, a tool that allowed for the creation of straight ley lines and precise cardinal orientations across miles of uneven terrain. So what does this tell us? The alignment to the sun and stars was just one expression of a much grander vision. These cultures perceived the cosmos not as a random collection of lights, but as a manifestation of a perfect geometric order. Their monuments were not just observatories, they were 3-dimensional models of this cosmic harmony, places where number, form, and space converged to reflect a divine blueprint. The stones themselves become frozen mathematics, a permanent testament to a forgotten science that saw the universe as an intricate, beautiful, and fundamentally knowable equation. Beneath the waves off the coast of Japan, the Yonaguni monument rises from the seafloor like a sunken citadel. Its stark, geometric terraces, sharp right angles, and massive steps appear to be the work of human hands, a sprawling complex now claimed by the ocean. The central and fiercely debated question is whether this is a natural rock formation sculpted by powerful currents or a man-made megalith from a forgotten epoch. If it is artificial, the implications are staggering. Those immense, flat platforms and clean, straight edges align perfectly with the architectural language we have been tracing across the globe. It would suggest that Yonaguni was not an isolated wonder, but a potential node in that vast, hidden network, a site that was once on dry land, actively connected to the celestial grid. Its submergence points to a cataclysmic truth about this ancient world. As the last ice age ended, melting glaciers caused sea levels to rise by hundreds of feet, dramatically redrawing the world's coastlines and swallowing vast stretches of continental shelf. What we see on land today, from Stonehenge to the Nazca lines, might only be the inland remnants, the high-altitude survivors of a much more extensive system. The majority of this proposed network, including its coastal hubs and low-lying observatories, could now be underwater, lost to the sea. This pushes the potential origins of this sophisticated culture into the profound depths of prehistory, to a time before recorded history even began. Yonaguni stands as a silent, enigmatic sentinel on the frontier of this research, challenging us to expand our search beyond the familiar landscapes and to consider that the most important chapters of this story are waiting to be rediscovered, not in the soil but beneath the waves. Our minds are hardwired to find connections in the noise of the world. This deep psychological impulse, known as patternicity, is a fundamental part of being human. For our distant ancestors, spotting the subtle pattern of a predator's stripes in the tall grass or recognizing the seasonal growth of edible plants was a matter of survival. That same instinct now leads us to spot faces in the texture of a wall and to group random stars into the familiar shapes of constellations. It is this very drive that makes the idea of a global network of ancient alignments so compelling. The prospect of a connected, purposeful ancient world, guided by a shared, advanced wisdom, offers a powerful and comforting narrative. It presents a story of human unity and lost grandeur, a vision that can feel far more meaningful than the alternative, a history of isolated cultures, each facing their own unique hardships and challenges. Acknowledging this deep-seated need for pattern and purpose is not an attempt to dismiss the alignments. Instead, it is a crucial step toward a more mature understanding. It encourages us to approach the evidence with a balanced perspective, one that embraces the wonder of these connections while also applying the rigorous filter of scientific skepticism. We can hold both the captivating possibility and the disciplined question in our minds at once, following the trail of stones and stars with both an open heart and a critical eye, always asking if what we are seeing is a message from the past or a reflection of our own profound need to find one. This precise 15.5-degree tilt of the avenue is its secret. It was not designed for the Sun, but for a specific cluster of stars known as the Pleiades. In the ancient Mesoamerican world, this shimmering group of stars held profound significance, marking a critical turning point in the agricultural and ceremonial calendar. On the day it passed directly overhead, its descent in the western sky would have been perfectly framed by the long, straight corridor of the avenue, a moment of celestial synchrony that connected the city directly to the heavens. The entire metropolis was a deliberate, large-scale map of the cosmos. The Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon were not just randomly placed mounds. They were carefully positioned along this celestial axis to represent specific cosmic mountains or bodies, creating a permanent terrestrial reflection of a celestial order. Walking down the Avenue of the Dead was not merely a journey through a city, it was a symbolic pilgrimage through a model of the universe, an experience designed to embed cosmic principles into the very rhythm of daily existence. This was a place where the sacred and the secular were one, where a farmer, a priest, or a trader moved through a landscape that was itself a living, breathing astronomical chart. How does this change our view of an ancient city? It was not just a collection of buildings for living, it was a conscious act of world building, an attempt to forge heaven and earth into a single, harmonious reality. The builders of Teotihuacan did not simply observe the stars, they built their home in their direct image, creating a permanent anchor for cosmic power in the heart of their world. The map we have been tracing is still a fragment, a sketch of a world we are only beginning to see. Vast, untracked regions of the planet remain blank spaces on this ancient chart. The dense, living canopy of the Amazon conceals earthworks we have not yet imagined. The frozen expanses of Siberia and the shifting sands of the Sahara hold secrets beneath their surfaces, waiting for the right eyes to find them. The tools to complete this map are now emerging, and they promise a revolution in discovery. Hyperspectral imaging, for instance, moves far beyond regular photography. It can detect incredibly subtle changes in soil composition and plant health from the air. A buried stone pathway, long since covered by centuries of soil, alters the ground in minute ways. It affects how vegetation grows, how much water the soil retains. Hyperspectral sensors can see these differences, revealing the ghostly imprint of ancient roads and processional ways invisible to the naked eye. At the same time, artificial intelligence and machine learning are being trained to become our tireless research partners. These systems can scan thousands of square miles of satellite imagery, searching not for random shapes, but for specific geometric patterns, for the repetitive signatures of circles, lines, and right angles that signal human intention. An eye does not get tired, it does not overlook a detail. It can process a volume of visual data no human team could ever manage, flagging potential sites we would have missed entirely. The search is not only directed at the Earth. As our understanding of the cosmos deepens, we might find that some of these ancient alignments point toward celestial phenomena we have yet to fully recognize. Perhaps a stone row frames the location of a long-period comet's return, or a temple doorway aligns with a star that experiences rare eclipses. The future of this grand project lies in a powerful synergy. It is the marriage of these breathtaking technologies with a humble and renewed respect for indigenous knowledge. The oral histories and traditional stories of local peoples are not mere folklore. They are often a durable, living database preserving the memory of sacred places, of stones now toppled, of springs that once marked a ceremonial center. These stories can provide the crucial starting point, the cultural context that guides the satellite and the algorithm to look in the right place. The final pieces of this planetary puzzle may not be found by machine or myth alone, but in the space where they finally meet. From the silent moai of Easter Island to the submerged terraces of Yonaguni, a common thread weaves through the evidence. We are left with a tapestry of data, a global pattern of stones pointing to the sky that demands a coherent narrative. After exploring these sites across every continent, a compelling picture begins to form. It suggests that numerous ancient cultures, whether in isolation or in contact, were participants in a shared tradition of landscape astronomy and geomancy. They looked at the same sun, the same moon, and the same wheeling stars, and they felt a universal drive to mark that relationship in the most permanent way they could, by altering the very earth beneath their feet. The great unresolved question is why this happened. Was this knowledge carried across oceans by forgotten explorers, a single seed of wisdom that took root in different soils? Or does it represent the independent, parallel development of the human mind, a natural cognitive leap that occurs when societies reach a certain point of contemplation and stability? Perhaps it was something even more fundamental, a shared, intuitive response to the cosmos, a deep-seated need to find our place in the vastness by creating order here below. The weight of the evidence, the sheer repetition of alignments and geometric principles, points toward a prehistoric world that was far more interconnected, or at the very least conceptually unified, than our standard history books have ever acknowledged. The patterns are too consistent, the principles too resonant to be dismissed as mere coincidence. This is not a complete picture. The tapestry is frayed at the edges, with immense gaps in our knowledge and many lines still debated. Yet the overall image it depicts is one of profound ancient wisdom, a forgotten layer of human achievement that challenges us to rethink our entire story. What does it mean if our ancestors, from the deserts of Peru to the plains of Cambodia, were all speaking the same silent language of stone and star? This search for a lost global network is more than an intellectual puzzle. It is a journey that demands profound respect. The stones we study are not abandoned relics. They are often living, breathing pillars of cultural identity for descendant communities around the world. To see them merely as data points in a grand theory is to miss their deepest meaning. These sites are active places of ceremony, memory, and spiritual connection. The impulse to dig without permission or to walk where one should not tread does more than physical damage. It severs a sacred link between a people and their history. The removal of even a small artifact is not a souvenir hunt. It is an erasure of a story. Our fascination must be tempered with humility. there is a significant ethical danger in taking fragments of indigenous knowledge and reshaping them to fit a Western framework, twisting local traditions to serve an external narrative. The path to true understanding cannot be a one-way street. It requires genuine collaboration, listening to the oral histories kept by elders, and working alongside local communities as partners in both preservation and interpretation. The goal is not to solve these sites like a riddle for our own satisfaction, but to help safeguard them for the generations who hold them dear, ensuring their original purpose and enduring significance are honored, not overwritten. This is how we move from being mere spectators of the past to becoming responsible stewards of its legacy. Our journey across the continents reveals a world whispering with celestial intention. We have walked the stone rows of Karnak, traced the desert lines of Nazca, and stood beneath the cosmic towers of Angkor Wat. Each site, a unique expression of a shared human impulse to map the heavens onto the earth. While the full picture of a global network remains tantalizingly just beyond our grasp, the sheer weight of this evidence is undeniable. It pushes us to expand our understanding of ancient ingenuity, to see these cultures not as primitive or isolated, but as sophisticated astronomers and engineers. These silent stones are far more than monuments. They are the surviving pages of a vast, fragmented library, a library built not of paper but of stone and sky. Its language is the precise geometry of the pyramids, the lunar mathematics of the stone rows, the solar alignments of the temple doors. The greatest secret this library holds may not be a technical manual, but a profound reminder. It speaks of our deep and enduring connection to the cosmos, a relationship woven into the very foundations of our oldest structures. This legacy invites you to become part of the search. Look at the landscape around you with a newfound curiosity. That cluster of ancient stones in a farmer's field, the old church built on a hilltop known for older legends, the peculiar alignment of a local road, these could be fragments of a pattern waiting to be recognized. Your own observations are a valuable thread in this ongoing investigation. Share what you have noticed or wondered about in the comments below, and if this journey into the ancient mind has sparked your imagination, subscribe to continue exploring history's greatest mysteries together.